Um, Before I begin, let me tell that the two organizations that I'm consulting with are in Nepal, Kathmandu, because you'll be wondering why Himalaya TV is not here. It's the third largest channel of Nepal. I'm also in two projects in India and one project every month in Dubai. Consciously into projects. That's another way of ensuring more uncertainty and more freedom, both. Anyway, when we were students, and that was not Jurassic years ago, so when we were students, when I studied media, we were taught that the three functions of media and communication are to inform, to educate, and to entertain. Perhaps even today, these are the functions which are talked about when someone studies communication first in college. But when I joined actual media, working across various organizations like Z, Business India, Times of India, a couple of others, over maybe 14, 15 years, in this period, what we understood, what we practiced, is that there is no watertight compartment called educate, inform, entertain. They are always overlapping. So there is edutainment, education in an entertaining fashion. Infotainment, information in an entertaining fashion. So we understood it's not enough to have great news sense. We also need to have great packaging sense. And therefore, traditional papers also became colorful, well-packaged, graphics, and news also took infotaining avatar, which is yet going on. Sometimes it is done too much. So you have Bhoot Pret ki kahaniyan also in news channels. It takes it a little too much. But generally, infotainment, edutainment, they became the... And the other thing that we came to know, a major function of communication is to persuade. Persuasion. So whether it's a behavior change persuasion in social communication, or it's a purchasing decision change persuasion in marketing communication. But whatever it is, so persuasion also is another great purpose. But over a period of time, later on, when first I became director of the Media School of Symbiosis and later on one of the 4 deans, in this 7-8 years of period of academics, what I could find is that, and what scholars like them, practitioners, practicing scholars rather, like them who had come to campus on different occasions, talking and all, we found and the rise of this digital medium started. In fact, the rise of internet started. I remember one of my ex-students who is currently the deputy editor of DNA, G. Sampath Kumar, taught me how to open the inbox, email, how to start email. And the first one he did was ukc64@rediffmail.com. And I did not know how to make a password and all. He made that and said before leaving the room, please change the password. This is how you do it. Otherwise, every night I will check up what mails are you sending to whom, and you would not even know it. He was a good friend. He's a good friend. Though he was a student at that time, today completely a friend. Now, we learned from our students, actually, internet. We actually learned. Then social media came. I came into Facebook only as recent as 2009, perhaps February, March. Now, there is a Facebook flashback. You know that flashback film. It tells when did you start your journey in Facebook. That was also taught by another student. Anyway, so here when I come in education, I understand that the real purposes of media is first to interact, and through interaction perhaps to engage, and if by and through engagement some level of empowerment comes, is better. So to engage, to interact, to engage, and to empower. This is what communication is all about. This is what came as a realization in the digital age, which now we are going through. And what comes after digital age, Sandeep has just now tried to crystal gauge at it. It's very tough, in fact. That's for another moment. He was speaking that around 50% of India's population is below 25 years. Last census says exactly 54.2% of population is below 25 years, and 66% roughly is below 35 years. But the real impact of it will be understood when we compare with the figures in UK, US, and Japan. 62% of British population is above 35 years. 64.5% of American population is above 35 years. And roughly 70% of Japanese population is above 35 years. That is the factor that when you actually compare with three of the developed countries of the world, and other G7 countries also similar situation. And even let me tell you, China, which is higher population than us, even there also, we are younger than them. We are actually far younger than them. 46 or 47% population is above 35 years. So we are much younger compared to even China. Now, in this situation, it's not just about the age. There are two factors here. First of all, let me humbly state that youth no more is an age statistics. It's a state of mind. And it's not about philosophy. I'm talking from a marketing point of view also. It's a state of mind. There are quite a good number of people in 40s and 50s. Many of them might have initially become a forced migrant to the digital world, but has taken up the digital world quite well. Quite well. I mean, to an extent, I'm in my late 40s, and I initially came up to digital. I was not a forced migrant, but I was not a greatly enthusiastic migrant. But today, I'm quite enthusiastic about it. I mean, you would be far more. I'm not so active, let's say, in Google+. I'm not so active in a few other platforms, but I'm very active in Facebook or blogging or Twitter. So there could be several such people, even in their 40s and 50s, quite active. Whereas, there could be a good number of people in 20s not so active. And that does not necessarily mean because the person is not interested. It could be many other reasons. Even access to the digital medium, though it has become much cheaper, but still access is not universal. It's not truly universal. So youth is a state of mind or mindset and not just a statistics. That's one point I'd like to put before going into other points. That I'm just giving a few points, what I think as cardinal points on the theme given to us for this session. Age of great change, that was the theme given to me. So one, marketing during the Second World War, First World War, post-Second World War period was all about propaganda. Later on, it became promotion. And that's the word that we normally get in most marketing books, promotion. So marketing is all about promotion. But gradually, in recent times, particularly just before the rise of the social media, promotion became communication. As we know, the different P's of marketing are becoming different C's of marketing. So price to cost, product to consumer, place to convenience, and promotion to communication. But what's happening now is not just communication, going beyond communication, because even in communication, you presume you know, and you are communicating to others. Yes, the cycle of communication can be complete when there is a feedback. Otherwise, there is no communication. Understood? But having said that, even in communication, there is a hierarchy. There is me telling you hearing or you telling me hearing. We are moving on to conversation and not just communication. Because in conversation, there is no hierarchy. There is no hierarchy. We talk to one another. We talk with one another. We don't tell. We actually interact. We do not tell. So that's my first point. Promotion replaced by communication and will be and increasingly being replaced by conversation in the social media age. Second, organizations worked in pedestals. Even in our educational organizations, still we are working in pedestals. Pailagu Ustad. Now it's Pailagu Guruji. Now it's going off. The Pailagu culture has gone off. But even in the mindset, there is a hierarchy. There is a pedestal. But times are coming, it's happening in the corporate area, particularly in the new economy organizations. Increasingly, organizations are flat and not structured, not hierarchical. It's becoming increasingly flat, particularly organizations which are new media organizations or new economy organizations, IT, ITES, nanotechnology, or biotech, or even media, communication, advertising. These sort of organizations are increasingly addressing by the first name, looking at person's talent and not age. Experience by years is not always a merit. Sometimes it can be a dead weight as well. So these are becoming the reality. And therefore, the age of great change, the organization therefore moves towards flat organization based on conversation and not hierarchical organization based on communication from top to the bottom. The third point. Today, increasingly, marketing stresses and beliefs in motivational marketing. And motivational marketing can only come, the team can only do that if there is an emotional ownership. So moving to an organization or structure where it's flat, where it's conversation based, and where every stakeholder has an emotional ownership, a piece of emotional ownership. So the real financial ownership can be some other people, the leadership could be some other people, and the emotional ownership of a large number of people could be another set of people. The ownership as a concept is going through a metamorphosis, a major metamorphosis. So emotional ownership is the biggest trigger to motivation. That's the next point I would like to say. The other point which everyone has said, I think in the first half must have been discussed, is now anytime, anywhere, any information and anyone communication. So marketing communication is about anytime, anywhere, anyone, any information. Did Anurag Batra speak in the morning? Okay. Now he's a good friend. At 2 o'clock in the night also he will send a good message sometimes. And there will be an idea shared at 2 o'clock because he has, for some reason, he has come out of the sleep and he has shared. And the idea is good, something interesting. And if you are awake, you reply immediately. If you are not awake, reply in the morning. So you are actually moving to anytime, anywhere, any information and anyone. Next. One point of caution here I would like to mention, that whereas technology is evolving, the capacity of young people to adapt to technology is fast and evolving, but there is a divergence that we must take note between technological awareness and perspectives to issues. So while my daughter is much faster than me in the use of Android, she would need guidance or some sort of interaction on perspectives on many things. She's 18-year-old, much faster than me on many of the gadgets, gizmos, use of them, multiple use. I mean, sometimes I'll wonder what does it mean or what will it be, and she will take just a half a minute to get me the answer through the use of Android. Not just Google search, then she has got other tools also, all of which I don't know. And she would teach me as well. Now, but they have problems when the issues of perspectives come, some backgrounders comes, historical contexts come. So there is one axis very strong, the technology axis, information axis. The other axis is weak, the perspective axis, information applied axis. So information applied is knowledge. Knowledge innovated is wisdom. The problem is, technology is creating an information revolution, not necessarily a knowledge revolution. I'm not getting into details. Later on, maybe later on we can talk. And while knowledge revolution is still happening in some context, wisdom is far rarer. Wisdom is far rarer. Wisdom can only come through innovation. And that's another ball game. So let's make use of technology, but not be enamored by it. Not consider it as be all and end all. The next point, which perhaps also might have been mentioned because I came in the last session before lunch and this word I heard, value co-creation. C.K. Prahlad's theory of value co-creation. I mean, theory actually understood from practice in real life, in real economy. So it's no more the manufacturer creating the value of the product or developing the product. It's the consumer and the manufacturer coming together. And there's a huge new community coming up in different contexts, which is called producing consumer, prosumer. So you produce content as you consume content. You produce ideas as you receive ideas and practice some of them. So there is a huge community coming up in the educated section, educated people, digitally connected educated people, the class of prosumers. And this prosuming class is contributing or co-creating value with those who technically own the product, any product for that matter. So whether there will be a new range of tea or coffee will not be determined by those who produce that, but actually on the basis of market survey, actually on the basis of feedback from consumer. The more you do this, take this feedback, take this market survey you do, actually the better product it will be, more market oriented. The next, which is perhaps connected to an earlier point of emotional ownership, customer as advocate. Can we make more and more people who buy into our products or services become our advocates? You, I'm sure, is taught in the class that whole cycle, the ladder of marketing from suspect to prospect to customer. The real challenge comes after that. Customer to advocate to client. That's the real challenge. Can we turn our customers into advocates? One very senior educational entrepreneurs of India, I mean, just for the sake of name, I do not want to take names. That's not required also. Every one of you know him. Very senior educational entrepreneur. When I was still working in Simbi, in one of the parties organized by IGNU, asked me, I hear your brand, the brand that you work for is quite a good brand. Ours is this brand, and you know it's also a well-known. What do you think is the big difference between your brand, the brand that you guys are working on, and our brand? And he's much senior. He's my father's age, more than father's age, actually. I smiled and said, you want a politically correct answer or whatever I think is right? Well, obviously, I want you to tell whatever you think is right. I said, sir, perhaps, I'm not too aware, but perhaps, in many cases of educational brands, customers are customers when they come in. They remain customers when they walk out. But in some cases, customers are customers when they come in. They become advocates by the time they leave the campus. So it's important to turn customer into advocates, because the word that they spread as advocates is far stronger than the communication that you can do by paid communication. Far stronger. As you said, if you can make someone talk about your product without paying for it. Here I'm talking about making someone pay for your product and then talk about it. Ulta even. Not even paying for, rather paid for, and then talk about it. That is what is significant. That is what is significant if we can do it in a real way. Customer to advocate. The other point. There's a huge talk that has been going on for last 10, 15 years. Urban, suburban, rural. There are different markets, digital divide, and all that. I do not have immediate empirical data on that, but I believe my more experienced practitioners of marketing would tell that better. Perhaps these urban, suburban, rural divisions are getting blurred. They're getting blurred in the times of social media, in the times of internet, in the times of digital communication, in the times of information revolution. And there perhaps may not be a great information gap between someone who is suited, booted, and someone who is in kurta pajama. There may not be a major information gap, as it might have been the case 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So, urban, suburban, rural divide blurring. While their aspirations are coming closer, their information knowledge level is coming closer, also, both urban, suburban, and rural, all the three are having digital divides. There is a digital ignorance even in the urban sector, and there is a digital knowledge even in the rural sector. So divide is both places. The rich-poor divide in both places. Spiraling aspirations of the middle class is in both places. And therefore, the old paradigm of urban-rural divide in marketing perhaps may not be applicable in these times. That's the next point I wanted to point. People used to talk about reach in media planning. Reach was a big issue. Reach is still an issue, but not the biggest issue anymore. So reach, moving on to connect or interact. But that's also not enough. I have reached you. I have connected with you. I have started interacting. But do I engage you? Do I make you interested? So engagement is becoming crucial. It's not about just reach, but engagement. It's engagement that's the defining factor in whether behavior change or purchasing power or decision change is concerned. So engaging, and engaging will come through acculturation. That's another concept. Everyone goes to college canteen. I mean, there are a large number of students here. In cafeteria, I believe your cup of coffee is 20 bucks maybe, 15 bucks maybe. Still, you prefer to go to a CCD and barista. I mean, the newness of CCD barista has gone down in the last few years, I know, but it was far more in half a decade earlier. But still, you prefer to go to CCD and barista and pay 60 rupees or 80 rupees for the same cup of coffee. Same cup of coffee. And if I ask you to give 5 good reasons for that, you will start wondering, why did I do it? Why did I pay 3 times? So that means, through communication, through branding, through an ambience, through service, through taste may not be greatly different. Product may be similar or almost the same. But through few other things other than branding, and you would like to go in pairs to go rather to your cafeteria than to barista. So giving you an ambience, giving you a color, giving you a feel, and many other issues, some sort of culture has been created. A new culture has been created, acculturation. Once upon a time, taking a completely different area, once upon a time, when birth control measures were being propagated, initially by the government and then by private sector, everyone focused on birth control. When there was the first publicity done of tablets and all that, malady and all that, the focus was on birth control. Today, the focus is on safe sex. And increasingly, the focus is birth control, safe sex is taken for granted. The focus of communication is pleasure. Pleasure was not the communication in the times of malady. Pleasure is the communication in the times of Kama Sutra. And there's a big difference in these 3 lines of communication. One was utilitarian communication, birth control. The other was fear communication, that is AIDS, HIV. And today, it's a completely different communication. That means premarital sex was a taboo once, and therefore pleasure was not being taken up as a communication route. Increasingly so today. It's not a taboo anymore. The focus was not on pre or post earlier. They don't mind talking about premarital sex through communication today. That means there is a huge change. India today every year comes out with one issue looking at the sexuality and its beliefs in the country, and I'm sure you are aware of that. So there is a huge communication change, and this communication therefore is talking that new cultures are also being created through communication. New belief systems are being created through communication. I mean, he uttered Kejriwal phenomenon. Kejriwal phenomenon or Anna Hazare movement phenomenon post that, 2011 onwards, at least created a faith or an idea that a common man can come into politics and can win. It wasn't the case until 2010. That belief wasn't there anywhere. What happens of this in times to come is another issue. We'll look into that later. Obviously, there is a lot of hope riding on it. But the point is, what I'm trying to say is that at least that communication has been created, proven. A guy called Dharmendra Kohli, who does not have a bank account still now, under the definition of banking doesn't come under financial inclusion, he is an MLA from Simapuri. So this could not have been thought of, perhaps, once upon a time. So what I'm trying to say, that communication created the possibility of the culture of outsider becoming an insider in politics. Now, that's the point. Communication is creating new cultures, or acculturation function of the communication. And perhaps, so what do I say? Reach was enough? No, not anymore. Connect or interact, not enough. Was enough sometime, not anymore. Engage and acculturate. And then we perhaps move towards, which in some cases are happening and will happen more, empower. Empower. The Power of 49 campaign that's going on television now. The 49% of the voters are women, and the Power of 49 can set the agenda of the country. What's going on just now, I'm sure you have seen some episodes, is empowering communication. Toyota Greenathon is empowering communication. Amitabh Bachchan taking up polio communication is empowering communication in different forms. Empowerment does not necessarily mean X, Y, Z. It could be in different forms and degrees. So that's the next point of in the changing, communication changes in the digital age, I'd like to point. And I would end with this point. I said youth is a mindset more than an age statistics. But one critical point, every conscious youth, particularly digital age youth, is looking at every communication with the eye of what's in for me. You may call it selfishness, you may call it individualism, but that's one of the impacts of social media is what's in for me. Mere liye kya hai? That point is also coming up in a big way. To conclude then, I believe we are moving from promotion to communication and now conversation. As an organization, we are moving towards flat organizations from pedestal or hierarchy-based organizations and culture. The concept of ownership is going through a huge metamorphosis, and emotional ownership is becoming the crucial point of motivation. And communication or marketing is now almost anytime, anywhere, to anyone, and I mean, to anyone in my target audience, obviously, and any information. There is still divergence. While there is convergence of technologies and communication, there is still a divergence between technological knowledge and perspectives of life, market, economy issues. Value co-creation is increasingly a reality. Customer to advocate is a major challenge for marketing, and those who can do it more spends less and has better impact. Urban, suburban, rural divide is getting blurred, and the realities on both sides are the similar, whether it's digital divide, spiraling aspirations, or rich-poor divide. Communication is moving from reach to connect or interact, to engage or acculturate, and hopefully to more empowerment. And youth is a state of mind more than a statistics. And this digital youth, digitally connected youth, is more individualistic, asking what's in for me. Thank you.